I just wanted to go over a few of the changes we've made in this build to the Smartware Studio estimating module. First, you'll notice some speed improvements. So when you flip around between the Summary tab and the Labor tab, you should notice that it's somewhat more responsive. Second, you'll find there's an Overview tab that lets you set up building properties, such as the building type, retrofit, and the building height, which are used to calculate the global labor adjustments. The global labor adjustments are now on the Labor tab. That's the new one over here. And those are used to calculate factors that are used to multiply all the labor that's already calculated in the system. So for the building type, we can choose one of these that are already in the list, and that's going to bring in a certain set of factors. And if I change the percent retrofit, that's also going to affect these factors. And if we add a building height to a certain number of stories, that's going to bring in a set of factors. We also have custom factors such as difficulty or experience, which you can use to create multipliers. All of these are multiplied together and together form a set of multipliers that are applied to all the labor. So here where we have 1.16 applied to the engineering, that's an increase of 16% over the calculated engineering, and that's going to show now on this tab where we had engineering. It'll adjust them upward before doing the rest of the calculations and multiplying out the cost in the subcontract and carrying all of those over onto the summary and onto the reports. There's actually three types of adjustments in here. There's the building type and building height, which are driven by tables that I'll get to in just a second. Then there's also user editable ones here that can be built into the template. The user can't remove them, but they can modify the individual factors. The end user can also add their own rows if they want to put in their own factors to account for either positive or negative adjustments based on the specifics of the project. Now, these tables for the building types and the retrofit can be accessed in the estimate model. So over here from global labor adjustment settings or from the summary tab, you can get to these. The building types are built into this table here. For each building type there are two rows, one that represent the multipliers when it's a completely new build, the other that represent the multipliers if it's 100% retrofit. So for something like a government facility here that has no additional multipliers for a new build, but multipliers from 1.2 to 1.1 for retrofit, depending on the amount of retrofit, the calculated factor will be somewhere between these. It's a linear interpolation, so 0 retrofit would be 1.0, 25% retrofit would be 1.05, and 100% retrofit will be 1.2. These are fully customizable, so you can change these values in your templates. You can add your own building types or rename the ones that are here. The building heights adjustment is calculated as a table. There's actually a formula that does something of a logarithmic increase depending on the number of floors. So there's a specific increase that occurs for every doubling of the floors, and that's represented by these numbers here by labor code. So in this case, 35 actually represents a 0.035 increase for every doubling. So we go from 1.0 to 1.035 to 1.07 to 1.105 to 1.14, etc. as the number of floors increase. So you can just use a number here from 1 to 100 on any of these to affect the table. So if I wanted to change this value and have it increase even more dramatically, I change this from 35 to 45, and you can see how these numbers then compare to the previous ones. And again, you can set these values in your templates that you use for your estimating. You can also change the first floor that affects the labor. In this case, it goes up immediately for 2 floors. If you choose to make it start at 4, you kind of push all the values in the table down. Third, there are additional adjustments. These are line items that you can control. Here I can edit them and remove them when I'm editing in the model, and then when you create an estimate with them, they appear as they did over here, where they are fixed in terms of the user can't delete them, and they can't change the description, though they can change the multipliers. So this is good if you want your end user estimators to consider difficulty and experience without actually giving the values in there. And again, the user can actually add their own. If the user adds them over here in the estimate, they won't be part of the model when you export it. But if you add them over here while editing the model, then you will see them in your templates. One other adjustment we made here for exporting or importing an estimate model. So if you take create a new estimate model here, you can actually choose which elements you want to import from. So for instance, if I took an estimate that had a model that I've then configured and we've changed all the labor code settings and the labor factors, but I want to bring in the global labor adjustment tables, you can do that explicitly without overwriting other elements of the template. Finally, we've added one new report, which is a version of the TAC IA series order form. This is when you use the IA pricing spreadsheet to generate an order. This is the order form that comes out. We've used this template to create more of a specific report from the material that we have here, in order to be able to take this and say send this to Schneider and have them go through and come up with custom multipliers. This way you can kind of dump all the information from the estimate out there and send it to them. If you have any questions, please call us at 716-213-2222 or send us an email at techsupport@smartwaretech.com.